All right, buckle in, guys. I have an apology to make. So yesterday, I made a video going over the spoilers, and I talked about the Gorosei and their transformations. At that time, all we knew was that V Nasujuro was a horse, Jupiter was a worm, Wadkuri was a wild boar, and that Marcus Mars was a bird. So I said, hey, you know what's going to be really fun? It would be really fun if we sat down for a good 20 minutes and talked about what yokais these guys could be. And then lo and behold, come this chapter, Oda not only gives us the designs of the Gorosei, but he also straight up tells us what they are. And I got all of them wrong. Classic One Piece theory, am I right? Yeah, no, it was a great time, man. So I'm gonna go into this video assuming you guys have already read the full spoilers, and we'll just talk a little bit about them. Primarily, though, I do want to be focusing on the Gorosei, but we will be talking about the Lucci situation and then just some other small stuff on the side. So yeah, buckle in, get ready. It's time to talk about these old men. So, they showed up here on Egghead Island. They all transformed, and we get confirmation that these guys have actually been summoned. You know, last week, my predictions, I'm 0-2. I'm 0-2. Last week, I was like, yo, it would be crazy if when Saturn summoned these guys, if their real bodies were still at Marie Joie. Come this chapter, Oda said, hey, Sai, hold another L. Because when we hop in here, we see that they are no longer in the Holy Capital. They're not there. Those guys have actually been summoned. And, at this point, I was like, okay, and I'm not going to lie, but that was pretty dang cool to find out. And here's the thing, too. Saturn summoning these guys, they're able to teleport from the Holy Land all the way to Egghead Island. That is just absolutely insane. And now I'm just curious if Saturn is the only one that can summon them, or if they can summon each other like the Power Rangers. I'm not too sure how that works yet. But yeah, the whole theory that their real bodies are hidden away, and that's why we can't hurt them, that's why we can't hurt Saturn, I feel like that is pretty much tossed out the window at this point. Of course, since we are now talking about the real body situation, I am curious to see if the other Gorosei members can regenerate like Saint Saturn, or if that is an ability that only he has. Because, damn! At the end of this chapter, man, Jupiter, some people are saying I'm pronouncing his name wrong, but his name is actually Jupiter, right? They space out the Jew, they space out the Peter, and I think it's a pretty cool way of pronouncing it. But yes, Jupiter, end of the chapter, he gets destroyed by Dory and Brogy. Oh man, there's just so much to talk about, dude. I don't know why. I love chapters like this where we get crazy reveals, we get brand new forms, a brand new power system, mind you, because, just going back to the Gorosei, dude, these are not devil fruits. Redden, the full summary leaker, said, yo, the way their forms are announced aren't like devil fruits. They do not have devil fruit titles. They are just straight up yokai. So yeah, so much is happening, but I'm going to try to hone in on one point, and then we'll just work our way through. All right, so we'll start from the beginning, or at least I'll try to. But Jupiter, right? Jupiter, destroyed by Dory and Brogy. Does this guy regenerate? I want to say that he can, because let's be real. If Dory and Brogy cut Jupiter's head off, like the summary said, then that's a massive L. Like Saint Saturn, cool. Knock him through buildings. Oh no, his arm's gone. Oh no, his horn's broken. Sure, he regenerates. Frankie Laserbeam pierces his body. Cool, but he regenerates. I will take all the Saint Saturn L's left and right. I've accepted it. The guy, he's a punching bag, but he's still standing. Cool. But Jupiter, though, if this guy doesn't regenerate, if Jupiter is actually dead, I don't know, man. You guys tell me, how would you feel if one of these dudes went down to Dory and Brogy? I think it would be a crying shame if Jupiter went out this early on without really showing us what he's capable of. Yes, he swallowed Luffy. Yes, he kind of has a cool design, but I feel like there has to be more to it. It can't be over. Maybe since he's a sandworm, he laid a bunch of sand eggs in the ground, and there's gonna be mini Jupiters spawning out of nowhere. I have no clue. I just hope that my man Jupiter is not gone this soon. See, and here's the thing too. Some people might be wondering why I want the Gorosei to look good on this island, and that's simply because it would feel more rewarding if we fought and defeated a strong enemy rather than a bunch of toddlers. You know, that's just how it is. That's a bad comparison. But, you know, I want Luffy to struggle. I want Luffy to just overcome adversity. You know what I mean? It feels good when Luffy beats a really strong character. That's why Doflamingo felt good. That's why Big Mom and Kaido felt good. If these guys can't land anything on Luffy and Dory and Brogy show up and beat him, I don't know, man. I don't know. So yes, Jupiter, he's a sandworm. He is surprisingly the only yokai that doesn't have a deeper description from the leakers, so I did find that a little bit interesting because all the other 4 Gorosei members do have like actual yokai names, whereas Jupiter is actually just a sandworm. So I thought that was kind of fascinating. Maybe he's from a different crop. Maybe the other 4 Gorosei members, since they're all really old, they came from the yokai batch, and then Jupiter, being the youngest Gorosei member, came from the desert worm batch. So I did find that fascinating. Now going on to the next Gorosei member, we have V Nasujuro, who I think, you know, based on the summary, I think this guy carries the Gorosei. You know, I mean, he had a good showing in this chapter. The guy whipped out a sword, whipped out his Zoan, whipped out his hybrid form, and he destroyed half of the Pacifista, half of the Mark III Pacifista in a matter of seconds. Yes, that is something that the Vice Admirals can do, right? Dahl destroyed a Pacifista in like 2 kicks. Bluegrass is able to just hop on a Pacifista and render it useless. And yeah, like the Vice Admirals can do this, but I would assume that it takes the Vice Admirals a lot more effort to overcome a Pacifista than it did V Nasujuro. V Nasujuro looks really good this chapter. And not to mention, his form sounds like the best in my opinion. Bro, he is a skeletal horse yokai who, in his hybrid form, becomes a centaur. You know, this is something that Frankie should take notes of. Frankie has the infamous Frankie Centaur, but his legs go the wrong direction. You know, V Nasujuro is gonna show Frankie how it's done. And not to mention, I think V Nasujuro, this is gonna sound a little bit blasphemous because I do think that V Nasujuro is going to be a Zoro opponent at the end of the day, but V Nasujuro being a skeletal horse and having ice blade attacks is very notable because that is what Brook is all about. Brook is all about cutting people with the chill from the underworld. Bro, oh my gosh, these guys, I think Oda cooked here. You know, like regardless about my whole Jupiter rant for a second, I think Oda definitely cooked with these designs, and I'm excited, man. I'm excited. So going back to it, I do think that Venus so far, you know, on paper, has had the best showing in my opinion. You know, he risked it all by fighting Pacifista, and I think he won big by destroying half of them. You know, as far as Jupiter goes, landed an attack on Luffy, but Doran Bragi knocked him out. So, you know, he bet big, but he lost hard in my opinion. The next Gorosei member to talk about is Marcus Mars. So he is a giant bird yokai, Itsumade, which yesterday I brought up the Itsumade and I thought that Marcus Mars could be that yokai, and at the very last minute I changed my mind. I should have stayed strong. But yes, he is the Itsumade, and apparently he's not even trying to fight Luffy or the Pacifista. It looks like he is actually trying to find the broadcasting signal. So he flies up to the Labo phase, and apparently he attacks the barrier, but after he attacks the barrier is still standing. I would say it's kind of like Jupiter. He tried to pull off something that would have been really impressive if it worked, but in the end, the barrier is still standing, which I don't know. I'm just imagining one of the Gorosei members like punching a wall, and then the wall is still there afterwards. I mean, hey, maybe we need to upscale Vegapunk's scientific technology here. But yeah, Marcus Mars going after the broadcast signal. Love to see it. And it makes sense because, you know, based off of last chapter, it turns out that Luffy isn't exactly their priority. They really just want to find the broadcast signal and stop Vegapunk's message. So I'm glad at least one of the Gorosei members is focused on the mission here. The next Gorosei member to talk about is Warkuri, who is the giant boar yokai. He has 4 tusks coming out of his mouth, which is pretty interesting. I wonder if 2 of the tusks are actually just his mustache, but that is yet to be seen. We don't have the rods in front of us. But yeah, Warkuri, apparently he transforms, and then we don't really see much of him in this chapter. So, you know, out of the Gorosei stock, right, you know, we're kind of keeping track of, like, if they're winning big, you know, losing hard. I think Warcody is playing it really safe. He doesn't want to, like, tilt the scale one way or the other. He showed up, he transformed, and he's chilling. And you know what? I kind of respect it. So those are all of the Gorosei and what they did in this chapter. And now let's just talk about what these guys are, because all of them are yokai. And like the full summary said, these guys are not devil fruit users, which is huge. I love that so much, man. Oh, when Saturn first showed up, you know, I was like, yo, I don't know if this is a devil fruit. You know, we have the cloak, we have the zone, we have the hybrid, but it just felt off, right? It was a summoning circle. You know, he's a Gorosei member, he's a celestial dragon, and we know that the celestial dragons, they don't exactly like devil fruits. They feed devil fruits to slaves for entertainment. And then, just boiling it down to the brass tacks, the Gorosei and the celestial dragons consider themselves gods. Why would a god eat a devil fruit? It doesn't make any sense. So I was always kind of on the fence about this, but, you know, a couple chapters ago, when I saw Saint Saturn turn into his full Zoan form, I admitted defeat. I said, hey, it's probably a devil fruit. I was wrong, guys. I'm so sorry. And this is another instance where I should have stuck to my guns. You know, I have a really bad habit of second guessing myself. And yes, it turns out that these are actually just yokai forms, which is pretty crazy. And at this point, I am now wondering how they have these powers. Are these guys the original yokais in general? Were they given these powers by Emu? Or is there some sort of god fruit out there that gave them these demon forms? I have no clue. But I am really excited about this, and I love that they are all yokai as well. Because with them being yokai, I've talked about this before, but it does remind me of the Night Parade of 100 Demons, which is like the most common yokai mythology out there, where, you know, there's a night parade, there's a bunch of demons just roaming the streets of Japan. You know, this is what it reminds me of. And now I'm really curious about the Holy Knights too. It's like, yo, do the Holy Knights also have all yokai forms? Because I do think that that could go pretty dang hard. I don't know, man. There's just so much about this chapter that I absolutely love. I know I did kind of meme on Jupiter and Saturn a little bit, but even then, I still love them. You know, like, I love the bad guys in series. Typically, that's usually where I lean towards. And now, speaking of bad guys, Lucci, right? Because people last video and online, they're like, hey, Sai, how do you feel about Lucci losing? You know, you gotta rub salt in the wound. But here's the thing. As somebody who has Lucci in their top 5 favorite characters in One Piece, I always knew deep in my heart that he was gonna lose. Yeah, I've talked about it before. Zoro, he's always been stronger than Lucci. Well, okay, maybe not always, but here on Egghead Island, Zoro is stronger than Lucci. Lucci was never gonna win this fight, right? Lucci is set up to lose. He is a hype tool. But I still like him. And you know what? As a guy who has villains all in his top 5, you know, I have Akainu, Mihawk, Crocodile, Buggy, Rob Lucci. As a guy who has nothing but villains in his top 5 favorite characters, I know that these guys are going to lose. It's not a bad day when Lucci takes an L. Because you know what? It's going to be like that. You know, Luffy is stronger. Zoro is stronger. These guys are never going to win. They'll have moments where they look good, but they're never going to win. And all I can ask for as a fan of villains is that they have a decent showing. And this could be copium on my part, but what better showing could Lucci have gotten than clashing with Gear 5th for a minute and having a brand new named attack used on him? Hey, Zoro! Hey, Zoro named the attack after Lucci. I mean, not like 1-to-1, but it's called, I forgot what it's called, like Spotted Slash, Spotted Hunt, which is a play on Lucci's 2 attacks, which is, I believe it's Spotted Handgun and Spotted Finger Gun. So it's like, yo, like, as a Lucci fan, we have been immortalized, you know? We are going to be officially living in Zoro's wiki page in the abilities category. We'll take all the W's we can get. But yes, Zoro did finally finish off this fight after Sanji teased him a little bit. And now I'm really curious to see what is Zoro going to do. So in this chapter, you know, going off the spoilers a little bit, Sanji tells the crew to leave without him and Luffy. So, you know, we're just kind of taking a guess here because we don't know what Sanji is going to do yet. But it does sound like there is a chance that Sanji will go back to assist Luffy in fighting the Gorosei, which I think would be pretty crazy. And if Sanji were to fight the Gorosei with Luffy, I want Zoro to be there as well. I think there's just something really special about having your top three right beside you, right? Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, they are the monster trio. And you know what? Jinbei is with Zoro. Let's throw Jinbei in there too. I think it would be a really cool showing having a Yonko and his YC3s all fighting the Gorosei. I think that would be a phenomenal time. Maybe it's just me because I am an action junkie. But yeah, I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this. How do you feel about this chapter? Personally, I'm walking away from this chapter with a big smile on my face. This has been probably one of my favorite chapters in a hot minute, which is hard to say because it truly does feel like the past couple of chapters of One Piece have been phenomenal. But I'm a fan of demon designs. Oda gave us 4 of them in this chapter. He gave us some Rob Lucci love. And honestly, I couldn't ask for more. Actually, I could ask for more. The one thing I'm curious about now is what is happening with Kizaru. Like, is he still on the ship? Is he still, like, rubbing his head? Like, is he still, like, crying over Vegapunk? Is he just in pain by Luffy's attack? I have no idea what's going on with him. I feel like he is, right now, kind of a wild card, but I'm honestly not too sure yet. You know, the thing with Kizaru is that him beating Luffy was never in the cards, but him getting character development out of this fight and out of Vegapunk's death has not happened yet. You know, he's felt bad about the whole Vegapunk situation, but he hasn't done anything about it yet. So I am a little bit curious about Kizaru, but apparently he just does not show up in this chapter, which it could be Oda saving him for a key moment later on, because I don't feel like he's done yet. Yes, you know, like I said, he's taken a lot of damage, so I don't think he's going to be like fighting tooth and nail anymore, but I am expecting him to show up in the near future. Last thing I want to talk about is the Giants, because Dory and Broggy, you know, talked about it when Jupiter happened, but Dory and Broggy showed up. They saved Luffy. Well, technically, I feel like Luffy could have gotten out of the situation anyways, but Dory and Broggy showed up, and they cut off Jupiter's head. The Giants, time and time again, have very much impressed me. I honestly didn't expect a whole bunch out of them, you know, coming into this final saga, because up until this point in the story, all we had of the Giants was Haruden being one-tapped by Gear Second Luffy, Oimo and Kashi losing to the Frankie family and Polly. You know, they lost to Lumberman. You know what I mean? And then we had Dory and Broggy losing to Mr. 3. Yes, Mr. 3 played dirty. Yes, Dory and Broggy didn't have their weapons, but at the end of the day, they could not break out of the wax. So everything we had of Giants up until this point has not been that impressive. And then we hit Elbaf, you know, Dory and Broggy. They destroyed Kid's ship. They look pretty good doing it too. And then here we come to Egghead Island. They destroyed a Vice Admiral. Vice Admiral Tosa was his name. He got destroyed in one hit. No hockey, no named attack, no nothing. Destroyed. The Giants, man, these guys are being upscaled hard. You know, it's like Rob Lucci, right? We saw Rob Lucci at Eni's Lobby. He lost to Gear Second, Gear Third. We forgot about him. And then years passed, dude. Years in the hyperbolic time chamber passed. And the next time we see Rob Lucci, he's awakened. He's trying to fight Luffy. He's trying to fight Zoro. And it's like, damn, even if you don't like Lucci, you gotta admit, the guy glowed up. And it's the same thing with these Giants, man. These Giants, they glowed up. And I like it, but like a kid on Christmas Eve, I gotta see it to believe it. You know, I still want to see more of Dory and Broggy. I want to see how they fare up in the rest of this fight, because so far Dory and Broggy have just kind of showed up, and you know, they have like these one-off attacks where they come in, nobody really knows they're there, they destroy the situation, and then we move on. I want to see what a prolonged battle with the Giants look like, right? Because they showed up here, Jupiter's gone. Tosa's about to kill Frankie. Broggy gets rid of him. You know, Kid is off the shore. Shanks just one-tapped him. Boom, Dorian Bragi destroyed the ship, you know? Like, we need Dorian Bragi in like a one-chapter battle. I want to see if they can exchange blows, you know, dodge attacks. Like, I'm really curious to see what this is going to look like. But based off of how Oda is portraying them so far, I think they're going to be pretty good, man. One Piece is making me realize that it's not the height of a man that matters. It's how they're portrayed in the story. You know, like, I used to be a giant hater, but Oda he's really changing me. He's showing me that giants are just people at the end of the day, which is something I never came to terms with, but One Piece has changed my mindset for the better. And you know what? I'm going to tell you guys a little secret right here and now, but I never finished Attack on Titan. I stopped at season 2 because I didn't like giants. You know, I know Attack on Titan is great. It's winning awards. People are hyping it up. But whenever I saw those Godzilla-sized creatures pop up on my manga pages, I had to stop reading, dude. I had to stop reading. You know, racism runs deep in my veins when it comes to giants, but maybe by the end of Elbaf, I'll give Attack on Titan a chance.